Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. Paramananda Madhavam. Okay, so wishing everybody a happy Shankara Jayanti. Today is the birthday of Bhagavad Pada Adi Shankaracharya Ji, who has written commentaries of our Bhagavad Gita, our Upanishads, and Brahma Sutras. And it is only because of his commentaries that we're able to really take a deep dive into Bhagavad Gita from an Advaita Vedanta perspective. So we offer our salutations to him, and we also offer this session to him. Today we will review chapter 5. So I'll go ahead and share my screen, and then we will take a look at the overview. Okay. So it's always good to remember where we started from, because the Bhagavad Gita is 18 chapters, and along the way we might forget what happened in the beginning. So chapter 1 was Arjuna Vishada Yoga, yoga of Arjuna's grief. And in this chapter, what we saw Arjuna break down. He was breaking down, his limbs were failing, his mouth was parched, his body was quivering. Basically, this warrior hero Arjuna, when he saw the opponents, he couldn't fight because he felt like he was fighting his family. So what did Sri Krishna do? For the first chapter, he barely said anything. And the second chapter now, Sri Krishna gives him knowledge. And so it's called Sankhya Yoga, the yoga of knowledge. And Sri Krishna says, you are actually the Atman. Don't think that you are this body, this mind, this intellect, this individuality. You are changeless, you are consciousness, you are eternal. And therefore, being Atman, don't grieve. And from knowing who you are, from this standpoint, then do your duty. And so we start then with chapter 3, which is Karma Yoga, the yoga of action. So here, Arjuna was confused because in chapter 2, Lord Krishna spoke about Jnana Yoga, that you are the Atman, you are the self. And then Lord Krishna says, but Arjuna, you perform Karma Yoga. So he was a little bit confused and he didn't know what to do. So Lord Krishna said, Arjuna, for you, perform Karma Yoga right now. Because in that particular state of Arjuna, his mind needed still some more purification. So he said, Arjuna, perform Karma Yoga because it is a means to the goal, which is Sankhya Yoga. So basically, perform Karma Yoga to gain purity of mind and prepare yourself for Sankhya Yoga, the yoga of knowledge, which then leads to being established in the self. So then there's no confusion. Okay, so then it's as though Arjuna understood. Then we come to chapter 4, Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Through knowledge, the renunciation of action. What happened here? What happened here was Sri Krishna explained to Arjuna that this knowledge that I'm giving you comes from a parampara. It comes from a tradition. And you've had many births, Arjuna. I've had many births. You don't know them, but I do. And Sri Krishna explains his avatar. And in this chapter, one of the great highlights is he explains the secret of action. He tells Arjuna, actually, I want you to look at action a little bit deeper. The real meaning of action is not physically doing something. If there's a presence of doership, then it's called action. If there's an absence of doership, it's called inaction. So therefore, the wise are the ones who see inaction amidst all action. Meaning that the body might be acting, the mind might be acting, intellect, everything might be acting, but they are ever rooted in their actionless self. And this is someone who is wise. And similarly, the wise also see that those who are apparently in inaction, who are just sitting steadily, but their minds could very well be so active. So Sri Krishna warns Arjuna not to pursue that path where apparently outwardly we're sitting very still, but our minds are so active. So he says, make sure to distinguish between action and inaction. And then Sri Krishna goes on to glorify those who are rooted in this knowledge, how they live simply, how they accept whatever comes their way. They're free from desires. They don't hoard, they don't collect, and they are very much content. And so Arjuna has this inkling. What a beautiful lifestyle, to be free. So is that something that I can pursue now? And that's when chapter 5 opens up. Chapter 5 is Karma Sannyasa Yoga. So it is the renunciation of action, right? So here, there are 9 topics in this chapter. So first, it will start with Karma Sannyasa or Karma Yoga. Then the inherent oneness of both. Then freedom from action for both a karma sannyasi and a karma yogi. Then the nature of the self, getting established in knowledge, the lakshanas of a jnani, the result of self-knowledge, and the preview of the next chapter. So here now, it starts with a question again from Arjuna. So in the 3rd chapter, there was a question by Arjuna, should I do karma yoga or should I do jnana yoga? Which should I do, Sri Krishna? Because you glorify jnana yoga, but you tell me to do karma yoga. Which should I do? And the answer is, it's not either or. We need both. And karma yoga is a pathway to jnana yoga. So we need to do both. Now in the 5th chapter, it's a little bit different because to attain purity of mind, there are now 2 paths. So you see the step 1 karma yoga, step 2 jnana yoga, right? Now what's happening actually in step 1, you can, again, there's an option that opens up. There's an option that opens up. One can actually pursue karma yoga, right? Or karma sannyasa. So now it's either or. So karma yoga, keep doing one's duties and following the spiritual path. And karma sannyasa, actually renouncing worldly life and following a spiritual path. So now it's either or. So it depends on the student. So this was Arjuna's question because he felt like sannyasa might be quite cool in the sense that one is on their own and one is free to pursue exclusively the self. So he says, maybe I would like to do something like that. So which is better? Then, of course, Sri Krishna, seeing the student Arjuna, says, for you, karma yoga is better. Don't think about karma sannyas now. Why? Because he says it is very natural. It's very natural for you, Arjuna, because Arjuna's mind was in that state where if he, let's say, renounced and went to the mountains, what would he be thinking of? He would be thinking of shooting arrows at people. His mind was still in a state where he needed to be very much in and through the world. So therefore, it's more natural for him to pursue karma yoga. And for many of us, this is the case. And then Sri Krishna says, the essence of karma sannyasa, it's there in karma yoga. What is the essence? Basically, the key things that we're trying to, attain is to be free from likes and dislikes. So very beautifully here, it says that one becomes free from likes and dislikes. Na dveshti na kankshati, in karma yoga and in sannyas. And also one becomes nirdvandva. One becomes equanimous, beyond the pairs of opposites. So these two main qualities, they're there in karma yoga, they're there in karma sannyasa also. So the essence of karma sannyasa is in karma yoga. So therefore, pursue karma yoga because it's more natural. It's more natural. It's where we are right now. And so if we want to just kind of look at who is the adhikari, right? Who is the adhikari? Who is the student who pursues whichever path? So for karma yoga, this is mostly for a householder. It's mostly for a householder. For karma sannyasa, it's for a sannyasi. Somebody actually renounces worldly life. So karma sannyasa is a pathway by which somebody renounces worldly life to pursue this knowledge exclusively. And the example that I gave you when we were studying here is the train and the airplane. Because both ways will get us there. Both ways will get us to moksha. It's just that for karma yoga, there might be many stops. So it might be like a train with many, many, many different stops. And for karma sannyasa, it might be an airplane, which will go directly to a certain place. But remember, if the airplane crashes, it's a great disaster. So we should be wherever fits our personality most and not try to force anything. And the reason one would choose the path of karma yoga is because one desires to still experience the world. We still want to go through the world, see what's there, go here, go there, experience all of these things. But the one who wants to pursue karma sannyas, there's less desires now to experience the world. They've gotten that kind of vairagya where they're just not seeing the world giving them what they need or want. And therefore, the karma yogi, the one who pursues the path of karma yoga, they focus on family life, or they focus on serving society and spiritual life. And the karma sannyasi, the one who pursues the path of karma sannyasa, their life is centered on shravanam, mananam, and nididhyasana. So it's an exclusive pursuit. So one, karma yoga is a pursuit in and through our daily activities. Karma sannyasa is an exclusive pursuit. So those who are in the path of karma sannyas, that's their primary duty. Their primary dharma is to seek, right? For those who are in karma yoga, the primary dharma is to seek, but to also make sure to take care of family and society in the way that they need to. So now, here, the second topic, Sri Krishna says, don't get so carried away by the differences. Yes, there are different kinds of adhikari. Adhikari means students. But go into the inherent oneness. Both karma yoga and karma sannyasa are trying to do the same thing. They're trying to purify the mind and lead to the attainment of knowledge. So both are trying to do the same thing. It's just that one is a little bit more exclusive than the other, because in the path of karma sannyas, they feel like they're ready to just focus on this, and that's okay. And the path of karma yoga, one wants to still be in the world, and that's also okay. So he says, don't get too caught up in these external differences. Go into the inherent oneness and just get established in one. So if you pick karma yoga, get established in it. If you pick karma sannyasa, get established in it. Now, a question comes that if I, as a seeker, pick the path of karma yoga to purify my mind and to eventually attain knowledge, do I have to go through karma sannyasa? So the answer is yes, but it just depends on the amount of time. Definitely a formal sannyasa is not required for everybody, but what is required is exclusive dedication to pursue this knowledge. And the purer one's mind is, then the lesser time is required. An example I gave you was Nisargadatta Maharaj, right? So for him, he was definitely a householder. He was there, he was taking care of his shop. And then he met his guru, and his guru gave him the knowledge. And all he did was he just contemplated on it, and he got it. But his friend who was there didn't get it, right? So it's because Nisargadatta Maharaj Ji had gone through his karma yoga that he was able to get this knowledge and exclusively contemplate on it when it was given to him. So whichever way we go, we do need that exclusive time. How much time? It depends on the purity of our mind. So we cannot generalize and say people need 2 years or 3 years, So this is something that we have to really think about. Then he says, what the karma sannyasis get, the karma yogis also get, right? So we may start, so people may start from different points. One may start from karma yoga, one may start from karma sannyasa. But by the way, the one who's starting in karma sannyasa also had to go through karma yoga. So don't think that we can avoid karma yoga. We can't. Even to be in the path of karma sannyasa, one has to perform karma yoga, has to go through that process. But both will eventually gain jnana nishta, or this abidance in the self, at the appropriate time through knowledge. So this is what happens. But what makes knowledge really clear and what makes knowledge stick is the purity of mind. So whichever way we study jnana yoga, whichever way we do our atma and atma viveka, it really boils down to the amount of purity that we have and that we have been able to cultivate. And the purer we are, the more we're able to walk on this path solidly without turning back. And so here, the wise always look at the core. They're not focusing on the external differences. They're always looking at the core, that wherever we are, that is the right place for us to be. There's no need to compare that you are in this situation, I am in this situation, she's in that situation. There's no need to compare. Wherever we are is where we're meant to be. And now we just need to grow and evolve from there. Now, Sri Krishna also brings a word of caution and says people should not jump into karma sannyas right away, because it will be very sorrowful. So for somebody who just jumps into the path of karma sannyasa, and whose mind is not prepared, they will then feel sort of suffocated because they can't express themselves. They can't be very outgoing and extrovert anymore. And so it'll feel like so much suppression. But the one who is ready for it, they attain Brahman quickly. So just to give a recap, right? when we say karma sannyasa, it is this vividisha sannyasa. It is that formal renunciation when monks take the orange robes and they give up, like literally they give up their worldly life. They give up all of their relationships. They give up even the relationship to this very body. So they even perform the final rites of this body. And they give that up or they let that go. And their lives are just focused on pursuing the path of truth. So one shouldn't get into it too quickly because they would feel quite suffocated. Now, here again, Sri Krishna says, Arjuna, karma yoga will lead to moksha. Don't get this doubt in your mind. Through knowledge, it will lead to moksha. So stay where you are. Do your dharma. What happens is, through karma yoga, one becomes yoga yuktaha. One dedicates their actions to the higher. So we saw this. It means that really all of our actions are centered in the divine. I'm eating not because I want to appease or revel in food, but because if I eat, then I can serve you well. I'm not sleeping or oversleeping so that I can just laze around, but so I can serve you well. So every action is really, Bhagavan, let me eat, let me sleep, let me exercise, let me do every single task, only so I can serve you better, and not for anything else. Vishuddhatma means absence of likes and dislikes. Again, in Karma Yoga, we're doing something for a greater purpose. So the idea is to have our individuality dissolved. Not saying that I like this or I don't like this. Just being above that. And wherever we are, taking that as an opportunity to grow. Vijitatma, mastery over our bodily actions, and Jitendriya, mastery over senses. So these things actually come through when somebody really, really performs karma yoga. So if we are truly, truly doing karma yoga, then this is the result of it. If this hasn't come yet, this absence of likes and dislikes, mastery over our senses, being able to dedicate actions to the higher, that means we're not ripened by karma yoga yet. This is what's supposed to happen. And eventually, as one gains knowledge, one comes to see oneself everywhere. So this is the litmus test to see, have we become ripe from karma yoga? If not, we still need to get fried. We still need to get fried deeply. Now, topic 3, freedom from action for karma sannyasi. So this is a karma sannyasi's main practice. That doesn't mean a karma yogi can't practice or dwell on this. That doesn't mean that. It just means that this is how the karma sannyasi views life. So this verse is very beautiful, very popular. It says, Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvavita. So the tattvavita, that knower of truth, one who's pursuing the path of Shravanam, Mananam, Vidyasanam, they know that Naiva kinchit karomi iti, I don't do anything at all. Pashyan, whether seeing, shrinvan, hearing, sprishan, touching, jhigran, smelling, ashnan, eating, gachan, going, swapan, sleeping, shwasan, breathing, whether it's seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, going, sleeping, breathing, all of these actions. Pralapan, speaking, visrajan, letting go, grihnan, seizing, unmishan, nimishan, opening and closing of the eyes, even that. What's happening? Indriyani indriyartheshu. So the sense organs are moving about the sense objects. Vartante iti dharyan. This is what they're definitely convinced of. So whatever is happening, mind is thinking, eyes seeing, ears hearing, hands touching, intellect judging. Whatever is happening, they're very clear that it's the equipments that are interacting in this world. So the sense organs, the internal organs are interacting with the sense objects, and I do nothing at all. I am the non-doer. I am the actionless self. In chapter 3, we saw this as guna guneshu vartante. The gunas are playing in the gunas. Because after all, these are all made of gunas. The faculties of seeing, hearing, smelling, taste, touch, faculty of thinking, they're all made from gunas. And the objects are also made from gunas. So the gunas are playing in the gunas. The gunas are experiencing gunas. And I am that one self which illumines everything. So here, now we have the example of electricity, right? So this is a great example to keep in mind when we're trying to think of the actionless self. So the actionless self is there, and in its presence, everything works. So the light bulbs, they light up. The kettle boils. The cooler cools. The heater heats. You know, everything does their function in their appropriate place. But they all do it in the presence of electricity. So if you see, this comes from verses 8 to 9. Sorry, it's clicking on something. Yeah, 8 to 9. So here, actionless self amidst all action. So the very same principle in chapter 4 is again taken in chapter 5 and elaborated. But the difference here in chapter 5 is this jnani is actually renouncing physically also. So in chapter 4, they're mentally renouncing action through knowledge. In chapter 5, the jnani is mentally renouncing action through knowledge. I am the non-doer, but also physically renouncing action, also taking that sannyas. So here, the karma sannyasi has the vairagya from I-ness, means I am not this doer. Now, in the same way, a karma yogi also practices freedom from action. How? So to come to karma yoga, there has to be a lot of selflessness. So we come to the left, right? Selfishness and attachment, and selflessness and detachment. So selfishness is, I don't know who I am. So somebody who's still kind of not really knowing who they are, what's happening. They're not knowing who they are. The one who comes to karma yoga, I'm learning who I am. I'm learning who I am. I might not be 100% clear, but I'm learning. In selfishness, my I needs extension. So I do everything for my own sake. So even if I'm raising a child, it's for my sake only. I want my child to do certain things because they look good on me. I look good as a parent. If my child gets good grades, I'll look better as a parent. My child goes to this college or attains this, I'll look better as a parent. So really the underlying thing is, it's about me. They're really not concerned really about the other person. It's because they want to boost their ego. But for a karma yogi, it's very different. Actions are dedicated towards thine, meaning this humble I needs evolution. So this, I am dedicating this towards you. It's not mine, it's thine. This is your house, Bhagavan. This is your child. This is your environment. This is your class. This is your everything. Nothing is mine. And so actions are always to benefit others or to break the ego. So a karma yogi, they're not afraid of their ego being broken. They're actually quite happy. But the one who's a karmi, not a karma yogi, the one who's just in the path of selfish action, they're always trying to pamper, boost, and inflate their ego and protect it very well. So for a karmi, the one who's engaged in selfish action, There's always insistence and agitation that certain things should be a certain way because they want to look good. They want to look good and make sure that they protect their ego. But for a karma yogi, there's no looking good and all of that. That doesn't matter. Whatever happens, it's prasad. And the work is just full of inspiration because it's for Bhagavan. And whatever Bhagavan wants, okay. If we have to fail sometimes, okay. If we have to succeed sometimes, okay. It's okay. So there's no sense of protecting the ego for karma yoga. Also, this is very important because many of us feel like we've done karma yoga, but really we haven't done it fully. We have to still get really ripened from it to truly understand the depth of Jnana Yoga. So then here, now the same verses, 10 to 12, again, freedom from action for a karma yogi is being elaborated on, and he gives the example of a lotus. And these two main things come again for karma yoga. Ishvara Arpana Buddhi, that means something that's dedicated towards higher, and Prasada Buddhi, that means acceptance of whatever comes. So for a karma yogi, it's vairagya or dispassion from mindness. So for a karma sannyasi, it's I-ness, vairagya from doership. But for a karma yogi, it's vairagya from enjoyership. Whatever happens, it's okay. And here's a great freedom because here in the example of a lotus, the water is the water of action. So let the water of action dance as it needs to dance. It's okay. I accept whatever happens. And this gives one a lot of freedom in life. So if you see here, both the karma yogi and karma sannyasi are free from action, but in different ways. So a karma sannyasi is ready to give up doership, has that clear understanding, I'm not the doer. And that gives a great sense of freedom because I'm Atma. And for a karma yogi, one surrenders their enjoyership. Whatever happens, it's okay. It's not mine. It's thine. It's okay. I'm dedicating this towards thine, towards you, and it's not for me. So because of these two things, both have a lot of freedom from action. And both actually enjoy playing in the field. So this is how to be quite calm, equanimous, and happy in life, actually. Karma yoga and karma sannyas. There are two great ways to be happy in life. And here I wanted to share a quote of Puja Gurudev saying, he says that peace is an unbroken sense of joy, and it is the fragrance of an integrated personality. So we can really only be peaceful when we have an integrated personality. Now, then, in the Bhagavad Gita, then Sri Krishna goes to remind Arjuna the nature of his self. This is when such beautiful verses come. This is that Navadware Pure Dehi. So this verse says, Sarva Karmani Manasa Sanyasyaste Sukham Vashi Navadware Pure Dehi Naiva Kurvan Nakayam. When we think of where we sit, we feel like we sit on a bench, we sit on an asan, we sit on a chair, and we get so concerned about where we sit and where people have put us to sit. Are we sitting in the front row or in the back row? But the jnani sits in the body of 9 gates. So 2 gates, the eyes, the nostrils, the mouth, right? And the ears. So that's 7, right? And then the organ of excretion, organ of reproduction. That's 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the Atman that sits in the body of 9 gates, the self, does not do anything, is a non-doer, nor prompts anything. So it's just ever there. And in the presence of Atman, everything happens. Yasya sannidhi matrena. Then he says also that the Atman doesn't create doership or action, nor does it unite doers with the results of their action, nor does Atman have punya or papa. So here again, it's good to give this example of the screen and the movie. So many things, there's so many characters in the movie, right? So many characters can appear in the movie, but nothing is happening to the screen, right? So many characters are there, and many characters in the movie are pursuing different things. They're going for different results. Some want to get married, some want to get a job, some want to travel and see the world. And so they're all pursuing different things in this movie of life. And some of them get it, some of them don't. And on the way, some of them perform dharma, good action, and therefore they gain merits. Some of them perform adharma, which is bad action, loosely translated, and therefore they gain demerits. So in and through this movie, so many things are happening. But again, nothing's happening to the screen. The screen remains absolutely untouched, absolutely unaffected by all of this movie. And that screen is Atman. And that's what the Jnani takes refuge in, that I am Atma, through clear understanding. Now, why do we feel like we are the doer or the enjoyer, or we are the ones who are acting? It's because of ignorance. So topic 6 is getting established in the knowledge of the self. So this comes from verse 16 to 19. And we feel this way because of ignorance. So here he reminds us, Sri Krishna, that knowledge is the one that removes ignorance. And there's a beautiful example of the sun and the clouds. So the clouds are like ignorance that as though cover the sun, which is the Atman, as though cover the sun, because the clouds really cannot cover the sun. The clouds really cannot touch the sun. And it is in the light of the sun that the clouds are seen. It is in the light of Atman that one can even say, I am ignorant. So ignorance, it's there, it's appearing there, and all one has to do is remove that ignorance. Through what? Knowledge. So the sun, that Atman, is always there. It's in us. It is us. But it's as though ignorance is covering it. So just remove the ignorance with knowledge. And in that context, I think I gave the example of a mala. That, let us say, I have this mala on my neck, and then for some reason, I think it's lost. And I look everywhere, and then somebody says, oh, look at your neck, it's right there. And then I look and I see, yes, it's there. So Atman is the same way. It is us. It's always there. And knowledge is not, if knowledge removes ignorance, but please note that knowledge does not remove experience. So the world will still function as it is. The relationships we have will still be there, but it removes the reality of it. We will understand that all of these are appearances in the self. So this is the start. The start to getting established in knowledge is having a clear understanding of what knowledge is and what knowledge does. So knowledge is not trying to produce the self or to gain Atman. Through knowledge, we're trying to realize who we already are. Then we saw this beautiful verse, Tad buddhayas tadatmanaha tannishthas tatparayanaha gacchantya punaravrittim jnana nirdhuta kalmashaha. This from the front to the end, it is one who is jnani, and then from the back to the front, It is the one who's striving to be jnani. So here, tad buddhaya means that the intellect, the jnani, the one who has knowledge, their intellect is absorbed in that. Tadatmana. They understand, they realize their self to be that. Tannishta. Tannishta means they are established in that. That is their nishta. And here is a very important point that I brought up. For a jnani, one who has knowledge, their nishta, their abidance is in knowledge. So if there's trouble in the world or trouble around them, their first nishta, their first point of abidance is, I am Atman, and this world is an appearance of me. That's where they go. And then they come to say, okay, now how do I deal with this in the world? So they always come to the highest level, and then they say, okay, how will I deal with this? So their nishta is very clear. Their nishta is not, okay, let me try to fix it, or let me pray and see what happens. That's not their nishta. Their nishta is very clear. This is all an appearance in me. I get it. Now what should I do about it? So then it starts from a great level of detachment. And from that detachment comes clarity. Because when we're attached to something, we really can't solve it. There's too much of ego in there. And tatparayanaha means they revel in that. They revel in that. So this is from front to back. Now from back to front, those who are striving for this knowledge, tatparayanaha means the goal has to be the self. That's the first step. The goal has to be the self. Tannishta. Then one should spend time in Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam to gain that abidance. Then Tadatmana. Then one sees themselves as Atman. And then Tad Buddhaya, and sees that same truth in everybody. So this is how to get established in knowledge. And those who are established in knowledge, they see oneness in all. So this is a very, very beautiful verse. It's very famous, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Cheva Shwapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. The one who sees oneness in somebody who's a Brahmana or somebody who's a Shudra, just meaning that the mental temperaments of people, somebody who could be predominantly sattvic or somebody who's predominantly tamasic, or in animals. So an animal like a very sattvic animal like a cow, or a rajasic animal like a dog, or a tamasic animal like an elephant. One who sees oneness means they start their transaction with people from a point of oneness. So I was explaining that's why we say namaste, right? We say namaste because, or we say Hari Om. Hari Om means in your Hari, in your form, I see God. It's because we start from there. You and I are one. Now let's transact. So that same consciousness in me is in you, and recognizing that, realizing that, now let's transact in the way that we need to transact. So this is the beauty of a jnani. They're able to penetrate deeply through the names and forms and see that oneness, and let that oneness shine over names and forms. And because they're able to do that, they can relate so well with everybody because they feel one with them. Rather than with us, we spend so much time just judging people by their appearance, by their profession, asking sort of questions about where they are and why they're doing this. All kinds of reasons come into our minds. But with jnani, their mind is just focused on oneness, and then they transact. Then we saw this other verse, which is also so beautiful, that the jnani iheva terjita sargaha yesham samye sthitam manaha nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmad brahmani te sthitaha. Here itself, jnani has conquered the world. Jnani, the one who has knowledge, Why? Because they're untouched by it. Huh? So they're conquering the world is not conquering more land and conquering more people and conquering more and more countries. They're conquering the world is transcending it, whereby the world cannot touch them anymore. Because they are established in that one self, in that I am, samye stitaha. And they know that Brahman is nirdosha. Nirdosha means Brahman doesn't have any defect. The condition of the body cannot touch Brahman. The condition of the mind, the thoughts of the mind cannot touch Brahman. The knowledge or ignorance of the intellect cannot touch Brahman. The personality or the individuality, whoever we are, cannot touch Brahman. Brahman doesn't have any sort of defect. And it's defect-free. It's ever pure. Nothing can touch it. And so the wise are established in this Brahman. And therefore, they have transcended the world. So very beautiful. So now, how does this wise person or jnani live in the world? So here, you see, lakshanas. The next topic is lakshanas or indicators of a jnani. Absolute equanimity. So whether they get something that they like or don't get something that they, don't get something that they like, they're quite equanimous because they've gone beyond likes and dislikes anyway. So it doesn't really matter. So whether something comes to them or something goes away from them, it doesn't really matter. There's absolute equanimity. Whether there's ups, whether there's downs, whether it's hot, whether it's cold, whether they're old, whether they're young, they're just very well balanced. And they also revel in absolute bliss. From the level of the mind, the mind is in bliss because they have the joy of I don't want. And this is a joy of I don't want anything. Our joy could be, oh, I don't want that. I'm not interested in that. We're not interested in specific things. But this jnani is, I don't want anything really. I don't want anything. I'm fully content. And that's a great joy. The joy of fullness, knowing the emptiness of the world, is a great joy at the level of the mind. And the level of the self, their ananda, is that they are established in the Akshara Brahman. Akshara Brahman, this word Akshara will come in chapter 8, but this Brahman which is indestructible. So actually, nothing can break Brahman. Nothing can break me, nothing can cut me, nothing can harm me, nothing can destroy me. So because the jnani feels like that, or not feels only, but realizes that, nothing can destroy, harm, hurt Brahman. They're very much established in it. And that is the joy, that is the fullness that they're established in. So this is jnani. And when we talk about these lakshanas, it is also for us to imbibe these qualities that they have. What else about the jnani? So here we see that they don't revel in objects. They don't revel in objects. So this is a very beautiful thing, this verse, Yehi sparshaja bhogaha dukkayonaya evate adyantavantu kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. So these objects, not just objects, but when the sense organs contact sense objects, what does this verse say? It says that it's a womb of sorrow. It's a womb of sorrow because so many things come out of it. And second, there's a beginning and end. Adyantavantaha. So in this context, I had explained to you 5 defects in our experiences and sense objects, right? So one is the association with temporariness. This is very evident. Objects, beings, relationships, experiences, They will come and they will go. If they have not brought sorrow yet, just wait, it's coming. Association with pain. So there's sorrow there. Either there's sorrow in the beginning, there's sorrow in the middle, or there's sorrow in the end. The sorrow expresses as many things as fear. It can be fear. When we gain something, we're afraid to lose it. It can be anger. We're not getting what we want. It can be greed. We got it, but we want more of it. So it can be the pain, the dukkha yoni can be all kinds of emotions, right? Then it creates dependence. Once we start experiencing that object or depending on that being or depending on that experience, then it's as though we become a slave to it. Like we become a slave to coffee, or we become a slave to food, or we become a slave to travel. It's like we just become a slave to it. We just depend on it for our happiness. And if we don't get it, we're not happy. If I don't get my kind of coffee, I'm just not happy. That's how we feel. And it drains instruments. We think sometimes that going out late at night, to a party or social engagement is going to be really, really fun. But the next day we're so tired and so drained from it. Or people think that smoking is great, it's wonderful. But then again, it creates cancer, right? So these seeming things that give us joy, really, they drain our instruments. Some people find a lot of joy in video games, on and on and on, but it drains the eyes after a while. And DG is dissatisfaction guaranteed. So no matter how much we interact with the objects, beings, experiences in our lives, we will still not get joy from them. Remember this point. We will still not get permanent joy from them because they're not meant for that. They're meant to provide us comfort, temporary relief, of a field of evolution, but they're not meant to provide us permanent joy. So we will not get it from them, no matter which way we try, because they just don't have it. Just don't have it. Therefore, the wise don't revel in these objects. In a deeper sense, the wise also understand that these objects are an appearance in me, at a deeper sense. And the wise also are able to withstand desire and anger. So we saw here that Sri Krishna says, till the body leaves, watch out for desire and anger, because they are such great vegas. They're forces. They're forces. If there's a raindrop, that's nothing. But if there's a typhoon, it's huge, right? Huge thing. If the wind is blowing gently, it's okay. But if it's a snowstorm, then that's very huge. So when these emotions become very huge, they're very difficult to conquer. So here I had mentioned a practical tip for us is that when such emotions come, if and when they do come, postpone them as far as we can so that they become smaller and smaller and smaller and easier to deal with. So if one is angry, put on a nice lecture on the Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam or Ramayana, any nice satsang. And then after that, you maybe feel less angry, and then it'll be easier to deal with things. So then the jnani also clearly then revels with him. So this is another very beautiful verse that we saw, the one who's antah sukhaha, whose happiness is within. Antah raramha, the one who just revels in that truth. There's a very nice example I read. One person asked the Swamiji, there's a great film that's out. Why don't you come and watch this film? And the Swamiji said, when I close my eyes, I can see Bhagavan Krishna in Vrindavan dancing and playing with the gopis. I get so much happiness from that. Why will I see anything else? So very beautiful that these wise people, they have such a great sense of joy within that they don't even need to go out. They are reveling either in Nirguna Brahma, that Brahman, ever untouched and free, Saguna Brahma, Brahman in any form, the scriptures, anything tied to the self. And of course, they know that everything is but an expression of their own self. So Antarjyoti. So they revel with it. So then, what is the result of self-knowledge? Right? So here we saw that they get Brahma Nirvana. Brahma Nirvana literally means moksha. So it means Brahmani Nirvrittim, means that absorbing in Brahman. Or it also means being extinguished in Brahman. Because Vati means wind, Nirvati means where the wind is not blown anymore, or blown off. So where the jiva or the individuality is extinguished in Brahman, where that jiva is absorbed in Brahman. So whichever way you put it, that is called moksha. And here it's they attain this absolute freedom because kshina kalmashaha, their sins have been destroyed. Here we talked about the impurities of the mind. They've been destroyed, they've been thinned out, especially the vasanas. And chinna dvaita means their doubts have been cut asunder. And yatat manaha, they're self-controlled. And they sarva bhuta hite ratah, they spend their lives in the service of others, or even when they're sitting quietly, they're also in service of others. And they are kama krodha viyukta, they are free from anger, free from desire. And they are yatina, again, self-controlled, and yatachetasam, they control their thoughts. And to them, this moksha exists in all sides, means everywhere. So the idea is, how did they attain this? So step one, karma yoga. Everyone has gone through it. Everyone has gone through it. So even someone who has done karma sannyasa also has gone through karma yoga. A question might arise for you is, what about bhakti? Bhakti is also a beautiful path. And the glory of bhakti will be expounded from chapters 7 to 12. So that will be expounded there. But in chapters 1 to 6, really the glory of karma yoga is being expounded. So you'll see a lot of karma yoga. So karma yoga, then karma sannyasa, again, depending on the purity of our mind, how much time, what kind of karma sannyasa, the extent of it, that all depends on the purity of mind. And through that, we are able then to attain jnana or knowledge. And upon the attainment of knowledge, then we realize that we are ever free. So this is the result. This is why we are doing all of this study, all of this reflection. Then Sri Krishna, of course, wants to pave the way for the next chapter. So the next chapter is chapter 9, meditation. So he says, the one who, see, when we are clear about this knowledge, what's required is to, as we said, dwell on it exclusively, right? We have to think about it exclusively, deeply, only. Then only it will really become intense. Otherwise, it's just a very surface level kind of teaching, which comes in the ear and out the ear, or which we hear maybe once a week. That's not going to cut it. We have to exclusively dwell on it. And how to do that, he explains, keep outside things outside. And with concentration and breath equalized, with the senses, mind, and intellect controlled. And with moksha as the goal. So with moksha as the goal, and being free from desire and anger, then one is liberated, knowing me as the self. So this is now where he's slowly preparing us for this Dhyana Yoga or Atma Samyama Yoga. So this is Sri Krishna's way of saying, coming soon, chapter 6, Yoga of Meditation. Set your mind to it now. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing this for a moment. Okay. Oh, did it say? Right. Chapter 6. Yeah. Okay. Now, yes. Okay, I got your comment. I had said topic 9, chapter 6. Okay. So now, before we close, there are a few things that I want to announce to everyone. So, first of all, with Bhagavan's grace, Puja Gurudev's blessings, we have completed chapter 5, and with Adi Shankaracharya Ji's grace, I would like for us to read the verses in chapter 5, just so that we can go through them. So please do stay back if you can for that. Before we do that, next week, we will not start chapter 6 yet. We will start chapter 6 in September, because I will need to travel in May and in June. So I thought it would be better if we do it straight in September. But next week, we will have a discussion. I'll just share with you. We'll have a discussion on chapter 4. I want everyone to review chapter 4. And I have the questions here, up here. And we will also email them to you. And then the week after, we will discuss chapter 5, right? So the idea is I won't do the talking. You'll all do the talking in groups, and I will just clarify any doubts that remain. But I think it's a very important process of learning wherein you all get to speak to each other and really understand the chapters that we've taken up. So having said that, let us just read the entire chapter 5. It will not take too long, I promise you. And then whoever else has questions, I'm happy to stay back and address them. Okay? Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha Atha Panchamo Dhyayaha Karma Sannyasa Yogaha Arjuna Uvacha Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna Punaryogam Cha Shamsasi Yatreya Etayorekam Tanme Bruhi Sunishchitam Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sannyasah Karma Yogascha Nishreyasakara Bhubhau Tayostu karma sannyasat karma yogo vishishyate nyeyassa nitya sannyasi yo nadveshti na kankshati nirdvandvo hi mahabaho sukham bandhat pramuchyate sankhya yoga pritak balaha Pravadanti na panditaha ekamapyasthitas samyak ubhayor vindate phalam yat sankhye prapyate sthanam tadyogairapi gamyate ekam sankhyam cha yogam cha yah pashyati sa pashyati Sannyasastu mahabaho dukkhamaptum ayogataha yoga yukto munir brahma nachirena adhigacchati yoga yukto vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriyaha sarva bhutatma bhutatma kurvannapi na lipyate Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tatvavita pashyan shunvan sprishan jigran ashnan gachan swapan shwasan प्रलपन् विसृजन् गृह्णन् उन्मिषन् निमिषन्नपि इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेषु वर्तन्त इति धारयन् ब्रह्मण्याधाय कर्माणि सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा करोति यः लिप्यतेन स पापेन पद्मपत्रमिवाम्भसाः कायेन मनसा बुद्ध्या केवलैरिन्द्रियैरपि योगिनः कर्म कुर्वन्ति सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा